Better takes, better vibes, better MMA. Thank you. I'm so happy. Tatsuro Taira has just gotten a TKO finish over Alex Perez due to Alex Perez injuring his knee in the second round of their main event contest. What we can take away from this fight is that Tatsuro Taira is indeed ready to test himself up against Alexandre Pantoja for the championship of the world. Now, I know that there are some other channels, some other hardcore fans that are saying from this performance, Alex Perez was looking good. Alex Perez was landing good shots, and that Tatsuro Taira is not ready. I would disagree with that, mainly by the fact that Tatsuro Taira, as the fight went on, he was able to start letting his hands go, start tagging Alex Perez with some good punches on the feet, like straight right hands, and some good uppercuts as Alex Perez was moving in. That gives me confidence in his ability to catch Alexandre Pantoja, as Alexandre, as we know, loves to rush in with his head on the center line, and that's what made his fight with Steve Erceg as competitive as it was on the feet. Now, an even better detail that I was very proud of to see from Tatsuro Taira was how he was able to avoid the leg kicks of Alex Perez. Alex Perez, as we know, has some of the fastest, hardest leg kicks in the flyweight division, and Tatsuro Taira did a masterful job of moving his lead leg out of the way as to avoid that damage. Was Alex Perez one of the more scrambly opponents that Tatsuro has ever faced? Yes, but even in those wrestling, grappling exchange moments, Tatsuro Taira was able to find dominant positions. He was able to get controlling positions in the grappling exchanges, which led to his back position, which eventually led to Alex Perez hurting his knee as they fell to the ground, and Tatsuro Taira gets the TKO. I can understand there are a lot of people that won't feel so satisfied or feel that Tatsuro Taira deserves this win because it comes off of an injury, but if you look at the small details of where Tatsuro Taira was having success in the fight, you should see that, like Steve Erceg, if you see those moments where Taira has shown success, he will have the ability to have those same successful moments up against Alexandre Pantoja. Alexandre Pantoja is a very interesting test for Tatsuro, not only because he has the grappling and striking, but because Alexandre is a very mature submission specialist. So if Tatsuro is looking to submit Pantoja, it will be a very fun scrap on the ground, and I look forward to seeing it. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, Silva de Andrade versus Miles Johns. Now, I picked Silva de Andrade in this fight, expecting him to actually throw some offensive strikes and to actually put the pressure on Miles Johns. But instead, we saw the exact opposite of that. De Andrade was extremely tentative. When he would throw punches in combination to press the action, he would end up landing on Miles Johns. But for the majority of the fight, he was throwing a single jab, a single strike, and Miles Johns was timing him and countering those telegraphed strikes. De Andrade was very tentative throughout the entire fight. Very frustrating, boring performance from the both of them, especially that these are two short 135 bantamweights, and they were doing more screaming and flexing at each other in the octagon than actually throwing combinations, punches, or strikes, or going for any sort of offense or takedowns. So it was really a 15-minute machismo fest between Miles Johns and De Andrade, the two little chaparrito steroid heads. Silva threw absolutely nothing, and when he actually did, he ended up catching and wobbling Miles Johns at the end of the third round, actually putting Miles Johns into quite a bit of trouble. And then you had Miles Johns winning the 3-round decision and gassing himself up on the mic like he wasn't just fighting one of the most tentative opponents he could have ever faced in the UFC octagon. So an absolutely boring, hot air-fueled fight between De Silva de Andrade and Miles Johns. Moving on to the feature fight of the night, Timothy Kuwamba versus Almeida. Now, Almeida has a very fun, action-packed style, as I brought up in my preview video. He likes to throw hooks and he's got a very aggressive walk you down sort of Muay Thai style. Timothy Cuamba, on the other hand, has some very good fast straight punches, and he was catching Almeida with those straight punches early on in the fight, but Cuamba refused to use his best weapon in his arsenal, which is his rear leg kicks. Whether it was kicks to the body or kicks to the legs, Cuamba would throw them extremely sparingly, only a few tapping leg kicks here or there, and because of that, he was mainly sticking to the hands, trying to box with Lucas Almeida, and this was the only note that I wrote down for this fight, but Cuamba made Almeida look like he was Jack Della Maddalena. This was a fight between a straight punches boxer in Timothy Cuamba, who has a better kicking game, against an aggressive hook-throwing puncher in Lucas Almeida. Now, when Timothy Cuamba would land his straight punches, it would look great, but he was allowing himself to get walked down by Almeida's big hooks without throwing any sort of kicks to the body or the legs to break Almeida's base and to slow him down. And so because of this, Almeida was just walking him down, letting the hands go, knocked Cuamba down twice in the first round, and continued to batter him with shots throughout the second and third round. Cuamba was able to get a late takedown in the third and land some big, heavy ground and pound shots, but Timothy Cuamba really showed that he has a young fighter's IQ. It's not that Timothy Cuamba does not have the skill set to win a fight against a fighter like Almeida. It's the fact that he did not utilize his skill set, and he does not have the fighter's knowledge to understand why he needs to mix up his strikes with his hands, his kicks, and his takedowns. This should be a learning experience for Timothy Cuamba. He still has a lot of potential, and I hope to see him bounce back and become a good prospect in the UFC. But moving on to the fight of the night, Brady Heistand versus Garrett Armfield. This was by far the best fight on the night, if you ask me. They both sprinted to the middle of the octagon in these extremely low stances, like these two junkyard dogs about to sick each other. And I was absolutely amped as soon as I saw them come out with that body language. Both of them in extremely low stances, feinting, getting ready for the takedown, and then they both start smacking each other with hook combinations. Absolutely great back and forth war. Heistand on the pressure as he is immediately with the takedowns. Garrett Armfield, as we expected, did a great job of defending the takedowns, and in the second round he was able to piece up Brady Heistand and actually knock him down on the feet. But man, Brady Heistand's cardio and wrestling pressure is on a different level. Brady Heistand has proven that he is a serious contender at the bantamweight division, because it's pretty much proven that if you can't knock the guy out, he's going to be pressuring you over the 3 rounds, and if he's out wrestling you, he's either going to submit you or he's going to win by a 3-round decision. So Brady Heistand is really proving himself to be a dangerous contender at 135. Garrett Armfield put up a great fight, and I don't think Garrett Armfield's stock even drops from this performance. He showed that he was more skilled and dangerous than Heistand on the feet, which is something that we knew going into this fight. He simply got out-cardioed and out-grappled by a very intense, high-level grappler in Brady Heistand. And I think Brady Heistand is a dark horse in the bantamweight division, and I look forward to talking about him more soon. Moving on to Asu Almabaev proved to me that he is a top 5 contender in the flyweight division, and he is a serious problem for all of the flyweights in the top 15 right now. Jose Johnson is 6 feet tall. Asu Almabaev is 5'4". Asu Almabaev wasn't intimidated in the slightest. He slammed Jose Johnson to the ground when he would be put in strong submission attempts from Jose Johnson, like some rear naked choke attempts or even triangle attempts. Asu Almabaev, like I said in my prediction video, was able to stay calm through those submission attempts, was able to reverse Jose Johnson, able to pop his head out and get into dominant wrestling positions. Asu Almabaev really showed to me that even if he was to go up against an opponent like an Alex Perez or even an Alexandre Pantoja, he would be able to keep himself calm in these submission attempts, and he is an extremely dominant wrestler, and I can see him going up into the top 10, top 5 very soon. Asu Almabaev gets a dominant 3-round decision. Moving on to Josh Quinlan versus Adam Fugit. Now, I picked Adam Fugit in this fight, and Adam Fugit ended up getting the decision, mixing it up with his leg kicks, kicks to the body, kicks to the head, and just in general having a more dynamic game, which looked better to the judges. If you ask my personal opinion, I think Josh Quinlan landed the more powerful shots consistently throughout the fight. A lot of people were saying that Josh Quinlan got robbed, and watching that fight, I did feel like Josh Quinlan should have got the win, but they ended up giving the decision to Adam Fugit. Adam Fugit was able to do more to impress the judges, and he gets a 3-round decision. Josh Quinlan most likely will get cut after this loss. And we are moving on to Nate Maness versus Jimmy Flick. I picked Jimmy Flick in this fight, thinking that at some points this would get into a scramble and Jimmy Flick would be able to attempt some of his submissions. On the other hand, Jimmy Flick simply showed that he may be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, but he has absolutely no wrestling. He was getting out-jabbed and pieced up on the feet by Nate Maness for 15 minutes. Nate Maness essentially proved that he is the much more skilled fundamental boxer, and he really did nothing to risk anything on the feet, Nate Maness, so he simply pot-shotted, jabbed Jimmy Flick, and kept away from the ground, and got away with an easy 3-round decision for Nate Maness. Look forward to seeing who he can fight next. Moving on to Weston Wilson versus Jekka Sadeghi. Now, I was really hoping that Jekka Sadeghi could get the KO here up against the most chinny fighter in Weston Wilson with the most lackadaisical striking defense, but Jekka Sadeghi, being very undersized for featherweight, he was rushing in on Weston Wilson. He wasn't letting Weston Wilson come to him, and in doing so, Weston Wilson, being the much more bigger framed fighter, was able to tangle up Jekka Sadeghi. Jekka Sadeghi ended up getting caught in a triangle by Weston Wilson. At the end of the day, good for Weston Wilson. Moving on to Costa versus Shalian. Now, Costa had a very good, durable performance. I was expecting Shalian to show me a little bit more on the feet, but Costa was able to out-scramble Shalian, get his back in the late 3rd round, and he got a very nice submission. All in all, not the most exciting card, but we did get some very interesting prospect performances out of it, especially Asu Almabaev and Brady Heistand. Tatsuro Taira will most likely be matched up with Alexandre Pantoja next, so we will see if Taira is truly at the championship level. I do expect he will give Pantoja a very entertaining fight, but all in all, I'm looking forward to Brady Heistand and Asu Almabaev's next performances, and stay tuned because we will be talking about them in the near future. If you guys liked the video, like the video. Comment on the video and let me know your guys' thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're always giving you guys the better takes, the better vibes, better MMA. We out. Peace.